Hello. Okay, so let's just check. I just ended a reading. Literally just ended a hit check, 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 test, test, test. Just make sure the audio is good. Okay. So we are on. So okay, so let's yeah, I just finished a reading. I'm on a fucking roll. I usually take like a minute or two, but there's no need. Okay, I took 1 minute. There's no need, you know? When you're on, you're on. And I'm on. So let's not waste this energy. Why don't we? Okay, so I'm gonna present your chart as a start the timer. So I tend to kind of like go, back and forth between presenting like where you see my face and where you don't see my face. The reason for that is that well, there's many reasons. One, a lot of my clients are like very visual learners. It kind of comes with the territory of being like an abstract thinker, I would imagine, or being interested in things like spirituality and being more, right brains. But also like, sometimes I just don't want to be filmed because I'll literally like be like walking around my room, my apartment area, like my office, if you want to call it that, my office slash lounge, like whatever, my everything room. Or I'll be meditating. I just like whatever it takes to get the best reading, kind of, right? So yeah. But anyway, so yeah, so we got a double Cancer. So this is a chart where I really have to emphasize the Placis and whole sign difference because there's gonna be a massive one. And that's kombucha, by the way. Which you didn't even see, but whatever. Okay. But 1 second, I need to check one other thing. Double check. Okay, yes. I told myself to check the email. Okay, 1 second. One sec, 1 sec, 1 sec. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I just have to answer this. I had like this confusing thing that happened, but it all got resolved. Okay, cool. So now we must search for something. We must search for your name. And now we must see what you wrote. Okay. Oh, you're from this. You were born in the Azores. So cool. I have a friend from there. She's fucking dope. A good person. Okay, you gave me your Instagram account. Very good. I need to make sure that. I know I just messaged you the other day. Okay. Okay. So you said, oh, you gave me okay, yeah, you said here it is. It's so cool. You still live in the Azores. God, they say that's like where Atlantis. It was like the highest point of Atlantis before like all the water came. I want to go there one day. I have like a book about the Azores in my. It's not mine. Like my landlord just like left a bunch of books. There's like a full book about the Azores, like, pictures and stuff. I look at it sometimes. It's wow. Okay, challenging areas. Okay, gotcha. So very, very straightforward. And did you get a follow up? I don't think so. Yeah. So just so you know, before like we really dive in, most people what they do is they get this reading and then they do a follow-up session where we kind of compare, and not everyone needs it, not everyone requires it, but I highly suggest it. That was a weird like just because I'm giving you the download I get, but by being able to compare it to your lived experience, that's where there's so much power that can come, right? And then a lot of people what they do is they do they bundle the follow-up with a current astrology reading, and I give them both at a great discount. And it's like this amazing long, it's like an hour for like the follow up where we talk about the birth chart, and then we seamlessly move into the current astrology, which is completely different. That one lasts between 90 to 120 minutes, so it ends up being like a 2.5 to 3 hour reading. I record it. I don't post it publicly like this one. That one I just I just like send it to you privately, or like post it like private, send you the link so only you can see it. And I highly suggest that, but like to each their own. So you just gotta let me know about that. And that one, obviously, we would schedule it live, and it would be pretty short notice. Like it could be like next week, and be very very soon. Because it's a live reading. So sip my kombucha. And you're also, so you've gone through the Saturn return, so it's really culminating. I mean, it's some people say the Saturn return is done when it leaves the sign, so that's not until like March. I don't know if I agree with that. I kind of see it like, like when it leaves Aquarius, like yeah, it's like there's no like debate, but like you have it at 6 Aquarius, so it's probably like definitely like way less potent present. It's right now at 20. So yeah, it's gone. I mean, it's gone like for the most part. So, but I feel like, you see, this is how I learn astrology. I get intuitive downloads when I do readings. I swear to God, like so much of what I know is like just like comes to me. Um, I think when it switches signs is when you're able to fully integrate what happened. Yes. See, like where did that come from? I have no fucking idea. But now I know that. And I know that's fucking true. That's what happened. Yeah, that's totally what it is. Because it's only when it's out of the sign that like that's when you integrate it and you start to kind of really like be able to like see like more clear like what that did for you, right? So anyways, let me put this back on. I'm in a very good mood, by the way. I had a nice my first like good run in a long time. I like not gonna go too much in detail about my running, but like I rely a ton on exercise, like for my mental health and just energy in general, and for like a period of a few months, like because I don't want to like buy running shoes are expensive. I don't want to like always be buying running shoes. I took the advice of this guy at the store, got a pair of shoes that like I have a treadmill, like a little nothing special, just I have a little treadmill I have here at home. Like it's a way I just prefer it than going having my treadmill than going to like the gym and stuff, right? It's like just a treadmill. It's, honestly probably saves me money in the long term because it's like the only thing I do instead of a gym membership where you're paying each month. But anyways, I finally like got the old shoes that I used to have. I got a new pair of them, and man, just feels so good. Like I thought like I lost my shape and stuff because I was like 30 minutes. It was like I was just like already like I just like, each step felt difficult, and then like I go on my first run of my new shoes today. I'm like, wow, I did not lose fitness at all. Like what the fuck? So I'm in a great mood, and that's like why I have all this energy and I'm able to like do a ton of readings. Um, so yeah. Anyways, so as I was saying, this chart is definitely one that we have to look at from different perspectives. A Placis reading for your chart because you have a 27-degree ascendant. I have a 20. Yeah, but it's close to 28. We have very like similar degree ascendants. Mine's 28, there's 27.58, it's basically 28. So it's like, it's going to change a bunch, but I'm going to give you the whole sign just because that's what you signed up for. But I'm also going to kind of tell you a little bit about Laplace's, right? So all in all, especially since your sun and your moon, but this is the thing with Placidus and whole sign, I see it as two different highways that get you the same location. Because your sun, right, is in the 12th house in whole sign. It would be in the 11th house in Placidus, I think, right? Yeah. And your moon's in the first house. So either way, you know what? Yeah, let's just stick with whole sign because it's gonna either way. I can just see it's gonna make sense either way. And I'm a whole sign astrologer, so yeah. But yeah, I might give like little glimpses. So you see your chart, how you see how the like the shape of your chart. Just look at that. You see all this and all this, and then you got Pluto over here, right? That's very significant, right? Because that's these are all creating lots of oppositions. The Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, North Node, mainly these three, and then you have all this other energy that's being opposed. So, basically, the shape of your chart, you can tell a lot about the chart. Why close it? So you can tell a lot about the chart by just the general shape. Also, you can probably see that there is a grand trine. It is with a vertex, so I don't really look at that as I would like a planet. But yeah, overall, okay, let's talk basics. So with the moon in Cancer rising, both in the first house, your emotion, Cancer is ruled by the moon, so your ruling planet is in the first house or 12th house, the Placidus, whatever you want to call it. But either way, so there's going to be a very massive link. Like you're someone who wears your emotions on your sleeves, right? You're someone who there's a very massive link between like your emotions and your self-expression, right? With that said, Chiron is also on the ascendant, so that creates someone who a lot of the times, they may have like kind of they can sometimes like be the person who like holds through their appearance like a certain like they're meant to be like a healer. Like a lot of times people with Chiron rising are meant to be healers, but they can kind of sometimes hold this like sadness when they're younger, like kind of have like a sad face, something like that, so that's just one thing, right? But they look like the wound, like the healing is like more of like an external thing. It can be based on identity, tons of different potentials. With that said, 1 second. I need to turn my noise cancellation. My girlfriend's making noise. I was already full of Aries. Like my cat. Whatever. Your friend's over. Okay, so the good thing is you can't, with my advanced headphones, you can't hear anything. I could be blasting music and you wouldn't be able to hear any of it. So yeah, wearing your emotions on your sleeves. You can learn a lot about your emotions by your behavior because there's a huge link to those two things. You'll be someone who, which is very interesting because with the sun in the 12th house, that creates a lot of times a very hidden person, right? So there's this interesting dichotomy between, on one hand, like that link between the ascendant and the ascendant, which is like your outer personality, how you show yourself, how you like kind of it's like the vehicle through which your vessel, right? Like the vehicle through which you navigate life is your ascendant. The fact that it is in the same sign as your moon means that you're someone who can wear, like I said, wear your emotions on your sleeves, right? People can know a lot about you by that, right? They can know a lot about you by it's like it creates like a certain level of authenticity, That's what I've noticed, right? Certain level of authenticity and like where like people aren't like surprised. Like some people have like moons that are so foreign from their like ascendant. Like the reading I just did, her ascendant was Aries and her sun was Leo and her moon was Cancer. So it's like that is a perfect example of someone who's just like very, very like appears to be so masculine and dominant, but then there's this very soft side. For you, that soft side, you guys both have Cancer moons, is you know, it's shown. People see it. It's not hidden. So so yeah, it's a good thing. And you know, anyone that has Cancer rising, Cancer moon, they have to follow lunar cycles. I mean, they should. You don't have to do anything in this life, but following lunar cycles can be very, 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 very powerful for you because you can really see the impact that, and really like kind of like what I would do right when I was what I just told my other client is to basically like follow. I'm like leaving my computer for a second. One sec. Hold on. I just have to go get my food's at the door. 1 second. Hold on. Hold on. I'm still here. Hold on. I just totally forgot that my food's been at the door for so long. Indian food. But yeah, so with the Cancer energy on the ascendant, that's going to show up. But then being, Gemini Sun 12th house. So there's the dichotomy between being very like the emotional aspect, being very, very, very out there, but then another like the Gemini part, right, being very hidden because 12th house hides everything. So it's interesting because Gemini is such a social sign. So when you read these stupid like horoscope, whatever, everything's one sign bullshit, you'd probably be very fucking confused because you'd be like, okay, this doesn't make sense for me. How like what the like you're reading like about Gemini and you're like, this doesn't sound like me. Like maybe a little bit, but like, you know, you're very like more mysterious, more emotional, more Cancerian, more Piscean, 12th house is Pisces type of Gemini. So it's very interesting. But yeah, what kind of going back and forth between the two, like how do they work together? Well, one of them, like I said, you have to of course know about the aspects and the house places, all that. But the Gemini, just in general, it's the battle versus one part of you being very, very emotional, very linked to the family, very, very linked to the past and the emotional self. A lot of people who have like the moon and the ascendant like in like kind of in the same sign or like even conjunct. Yours aren't conjunct, but they are in the same sign. They're like Tupac was. I think he had that. Like just they're able to be people who can be very authentic with their emotions, who can express themselves very well emotionally, and yeah. So that's important. And yeah, the Gemini part I think is interesting because like the 12th house is like about like the collective unconscious. So when you have your sun there, um, you can be someone who is able to kind of be in touch with like the hidden realms. Everything's from dreams to meditation to any kind of like spiritual work will it'll be very you'll be very open to that. But also with the 12th house, the sun speaks about the father. So a lot of times when there's a 12th house sun, it can mean that the father, which this is why it's interesting to speak about like the whole signs versus the placids, because in placids it would be 11th. But from this perspective, it would mean, well, for sure, one of the parents, right? Because like if it's in placidus, the moon moves the 12th house. One of the parents in my system, it would be the whole science system. It would be, the father was either weak or just uninvolved or just absent in some type of way, right? Which creates an energy where the person has to somehow become their own father, right? And your North Node is in Yeah, as I expected. I was gonna say, is it in Capricorn? Yeah, it is. You see how I do it? So basically, North Node in Capricorn is like in this lifetime learning to become, metaphorically speaking, your own father, right? Past lives where, you may have like relied too much on others and relied too much on, I have to feed my cats while I'm doing this. They're all crying like babies. Relied too much on like your role as like nurturer. When I say relied, I mean like it could have just been like such a responsibility where you weren't able to kind of like, I guess you could say like develop the more masculine side of your personality. Um, and also sometimes when I see these kind of configurations, it can speak to like gender and like having like been a different gender in like the most recent or the incarnation that we're dealing with karmically, whether it's multiple or one. That that's the wrong bull. That's Mika's bull. That wrong bull. So yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, learning to become your own father. Metaphorically means, learning to, and also it's conjunct Neptune, very interesting. It means like, the conjunction with Neptune speaks further to like how in past lives, there's some level of, because it's opposing your South Node, there's some level of like past life conditioning. I see this with so many clients that you're trying to in this life get past, right? Conditioning, whether it's like about like your role in society, like what you're supposed to do, and kind of moving towards like a more spiritual life, like because your sun's in the 12th house, very spiritual. Your moon's in Cancer, very emotional but also spiritual. Your Chiron is on your South Node, so that means that you were a healer in a past life, so that comes very easily to you, like nurturing other people and healing through emotions, emotional connections and emotional healing. And having that on your ascendant too means that you project that outwardly in this life. But then with Neptune, it's basically saying that you're trying to take that to a new level where you're adding spiritual healing, right? Where you become someone who can heal people spiritually. And it's in the 7th house, so that's a house of relationships. So that could indicate someone who I'm actually gonna pull. No, should I pull this and plus this? I can just kind of calculate. Because yeah, it would be in the 6th house in Placidus. So like that would be more in the Placidus, it would be more indicative of like someone who's really meant to give, to be of service to humanity in this lifetime. And in past lives, there's like they kind of maybe like hid their these like healing skills they had, or maybe they just stayed really kind of like inward with them. In this life, it's like about like going public per se, metaphorically, like kind of just being more outward with them. So yeah, learning to be your own father. But in the 7th house, yeah, it relates to relationships and finding relationships that are more based on spirituality, based on like finding on oneness, and it could be relation like there like 7th house. It's also like, and I just like had the download from this like last reading where it's not just romantic relation. Obviously, they say it's romantic relationship, business partnerships, open enemies, but it's also like best like when you have like a really really close friend. I was debating that. I was like, that's 7th house. That has to be, and yeah, it has to be. So it's like through those really really close relationships, like having like very spiritual ones, basically. Um, Now going back a little bit, before I go too far forward, you do have, okay, so you combust Mercury, and then the moon there. So yeah, there's definitely an energy where you could have felt like somewhat, let's see, Ices. Okay, so you could feel a very strong connection to the mother. some people who have that placement, like they find it very difficult to like separate or leave where they're from, or like leave the home in general. Like they want to stay close to home. They really have like that deep connection with their family, and you know, they don't want to like leave. Like they want to, like, family is extremely important. The past, the childhood, there's a big emotional attachment to that. So they can be quite past oriented. But you know, your moon is in dignity in Cancer, right? Meaning that like the moon works best in Cancer, in a sense. Like, I don't like to use the word best or worse in astrology, but like for example, if you, let's say there's like an emotional input, something that happens, right, that has like an emotional impact, right? Everyone has emotions. Let's say you're the Cancer moon, and then you have someone, the same thing happens to the Aquarius or Gemini moon. The Aquarius or Gemini moon, because air moon might, or even like, you know, Virgo moon or whatever, they might like not feel the emotional like impetus, or not impetus, the emotional like effect until like months later. They can like just like not be in touch with that. But the person with a Cancer moon, like it's almost like animals, like, you know how like when animals like have something happen, or like they get in a fight or something, they like shake it off. It's like it's like the ability to kind of just like deal deal with your emotions, and be self-sufficient emotionally, um and really, yeah, meet your own emotional needs with ease. That's why it's known as such a great moon placement, because the moon wants to have us be in touch with our feminine. And when you're Cancer moon, you know, you're very in touch with that, you know, feminine part of you, right? And also the fact that it's your rising sign means that other people, as I said before, it's visible to people who know you. So it's not like I said before, your emotions are this like hidden thing. Although Cancers, you know, water moons, they can sometimes be a little bit like there can be the energy of Cancer moon where they, you know, the whole thing of Cancer, you know, the crab crawling back in its shell, where you know, something happens, maybe it's like they have like a you know, some kind of emotional pain, or a relationship, heartbroken, whatever. They can find it more difficult than other people to climb back in and to trust again. So, you know, when I speak about the love part of your chart, it's like with Cancer moon, it's really important to have partnerships that are built on very solid and very emotional foundations, like pure vulnerability, just like depth, all that stuff, you know, like real emotional closeness. No hidden secrets, none of that, you know. It has to be very, you know, there's a need for that closeness. But then your Venus is and Mars are both in Leo, which we'll talk about after. So yeah, what else about the Cancer energy? Yeah, just a need to like really um kind of, and as a female, it's definitely a lot easier to have like a moon like this than as a male, just in today's society, because of the whole, you know, call it toxic masculinity, or just be a man or whatever, because it makes one very emotional. So they can cry a lot. But what happens when you cry is that you're releasing energy. So while the person with like like, you know, the Gemini moon or whatever, they might hold that in for a long time, or Capricorn moon especially, you know, they might hold that in. The Cancer moon typically, you know, will let that out, and you know, it can be very positive long term, even though they might sometimes be known as like the crybabies of the zodiac. But yeah, you know, they love their family, and they also want to create a family. There's emotional need to create a family. Um, but then the fact that it's in the first house is very interesting, because that's about like, it goes back to that whole part of the chart about independence, right? About being, you know, like meeting your own needs, right? Because one of your parents definitely you know, didn't meet your needs in some type of way. So you've had to go through this like healing journey to try to figure out how you can be your own parent, metaphorically speaking, of course. Um, and yeah, so that's very key. Definitely like a lot in your chart about like what I would call like self-sufficiency. And yeah, relying on the self, and finding ways to kind of like finding ways to, yeah, to meet your emotional needs, and like, because like with the South Node in Cancer, of course, I'll repeat, you know, South Node being about like, you know, the tendency in past lives, you know, can definitely be very linked to like, yeah, someone who didn't take enough risks and who didn't put themselves out there on like a big picture kind of career-ish level enough, right? So that's very important. One moment. Sorry. Because when I tell you to do it, you say you do it later and you don't do it. And you left the lights on. I told you we're saving electricity. Okay. Anyways, so with with the 12th house though, right? You know, with that energy, right? That's kind of like the initiation, if you will, right? To be more spiritual, to take more risks, to you probably, you know, you could have all these like special abilities that you maybe had as a kid and you like didn't know what to do with them, like a really intense dream life. It's like the mystic, the 12th house, you know. And in Gemini, you know, it's someone who's very multi-talented, who's very curious about a lot of things. So it can make you very curious about lots of spiritual topics and just, you know, in general, there can be lots of curiosity. Now, from the different perspective, you know, with the Placidus and 11th house, you know, that would make it way different, where it would be like all about friends and you know, humanitarianism, this, that, and forth. But you'll see that each path leads, like whatever way you do the chart, it leads to the same place. It's the magic of astrology. So with the moon though, there is the opposition to Uranus. So as I said before, you know, you have moon, Uranus opposite. And then Neptune is not opposing it because it's 12 degrees away. And this one, it's still 8 degrees, so it's not like close, but close enough. It's, yeah, it's definitely in range. So moon opposite, you know, even moon in Cancer opposite Uranus can create someone who's very rebellious, especially in relationships because it's the seventh house. There can be a need for like more unconventional types of relationships, for, you know, being more their own person and having relationships where you're not like so like tied down in a sense, like where you're able to express your individuality. That's very important. So and where you're not like, I don't want to say the word babied, but like where you're in the relationship able to grow, you know, on spiritual level, especially, right? Because the 12th house sun, there's a big need for spiritual growth. So relationships that are kind of, one second. One second. So yeah, relationships that are more based on like, because the Cancer side usually, like, you know, it's gonna want more tradition, more, you know, it definitely will give a need for security, whether it's financial or just emotional, like kind of like both, like definitely like a need for that. But then there's also, you know, like the opposition also, and we have to talk about the psychological part of this too. It can create someone who can be very moody and who can experience like rapid mood shifts that like are very unexpected. So I'm like sweating. I have an AC all the way on. Oh, it's just the fans. One sec. Okay, now it's better. So yeah, very important, very important, very important. To know that. And when it comes to partnership, it's like, because, you know, you like there can be this like kind of give and take energy where like there's one part that, you know, wants to be like very, very close and or needs to be very, very close and all that. But there's another part that wants to explore and doesn't want to be held back by the relationship. So that balance is what's really, really, really like needed, you know, like, and then with your North Node conjunct Neptune, of course, like that speaks what I said before about like having relationships that are, you know, very solid, but also, you know, based on higher spirituality and yeah, like if a relationship hinders your spiritual growth, it's not good for you. And if it pushes you into like a certain role where you're just like kind of living to fulfill that role only and not able to like express yourself and be the healer that you're meant to be, then that's also, you know, can be difficult, right? So speaking of all that, you know, Pluto in the fifth house, and this goes with, you know, your Venus and Mars in Leo, with your Jupiter there too. I didn't even see that. Which are opposed by Saturn. What degree? Yeah, okay, so that's interesting. So there's other energy in your chart that's very like creative. It's like, and you're, yeah, so you're right around the age where this is probably just starting to get liberated. But your Venus and Mars being opposed to Saturn, especially your Venus, it can create issues when it comes to confidence and like how you put yourself out there, and like in relationships, it can create lots of like setbacks to where you don't get like the most meaningful relationships until after the Saturn return, which you just passed. So yeah, there's this whole Leo part of you, which, like, you know, Leo is about like, yeah, the inner child, authentic self-expression, um, you know, just really kind of like being yourself and not really giving a shit about what other people think. Because you know, like not like high Leo is like expressing yourself, um, not for views, not for clicks, not for this, not for that, but for your own like spiritual slash creative development, right? So like the example would be like writing poetry that you don't necessarily even show to other people, or maybe like a few people. You're not doing it like to like show Instagram how good you are at that. You're doing it, or like painting. You're doing it because it helps you. And the Saturn, you know, opposite Venus, yeah, definitely can, it can lead to quite a repressive energy, and it can definitely also lead to some melancholy, because Venus is about self-love, right? So Saturn can kind of like be a little bit of a damper on the party, and when self-love is blocked, it can obviously block, you know, external love. And then with Mars, right? What else can I say about that? But then, okay, but on a higher level, like once, you know, and this is probably around where you're at now, on a higher level, it's really, really good for having like long-term partnerships that last, where there's like, almost like this kind of like, I call it like karmic glue attached. So, you know, there will be like a ton of fate that plays into your like, you know, key romantic relationships. Um, so that's, you know, obviously like very important to know, is that it's like it's once you find that self-confidence, and once you like unleash that like inner high Leo of like taking risks when it comes to self-expression, that's when things really open up, right? Now, but with Mars opposite Saturn, like the amount of successful, like super successful people who have that, it's massive, right? Because what it does is that it definitely creates a level of like, and when it comes to sexuality, it can create like some fears around intimacy, and especially as a sensitive Cancer moon, it can create, yeah, it can create kind of like insecurities in that area, like the sexual area of life. But overall, what it does in terms of like, let's say Mars is that like power. It's like about like inner power, like how you move forward in life. It's like like it's the function within you that rules assertiveness and action. So when that is opposed by Saturn, it means that in the first 30 years of your life, you'll experience lots of setbacks, and you'll feel like you're trying to move forward in one area, move forward, and then you get pushed back by some force, and you're like, what the fuck? But what happens, the magic of it is that once, that time is past, which is just happening in synchronicity of this reading, right? It becomes a lot easier for you to express and move forward. And that's why so many successful people have that, is because they had to struggle a lot. But then when the Saturn return comes and passes and all that, and it's fully integrated and all that, they're left with like the setbacks go away, right? So the setbacks are gone, but you still have all that determination. And it's like, like if you're constantly like taking one step forward and then there's like something pulling you back. I don't want to say like it's always like one step forward, two steps back, but it's like, imagine if it's like something kind of like that, right? Where like you feel like your vital masculine force is being blocked. And then all of a sudden that gets like shifted and you feel like a lot more lightness. You're still left with all of that, like all that determination that was needed to really like overcome the setbacks, but then the setbacks aren't coming up anymore. So it's brilliant in that sense. But yeah, like I said, there can definitely be issues that can come up around intimacy, around self-confidence, especially as a sensitive Cancer moon. It can make someone quite self-conscious. And yeah, I believe that you're probably like really, really starting to kind of move into that more confident era, that more empowered era of yourself, where you've had like deep realizations about a number of things. And now it's like, your time to show the world like what you're all about, kind of, right? And it also plays into relationships too, because when you feel empowered, when you feel powerful, you're not kind of going back to your South Node in Cancer. There's not this need to kind of like rely too heavily on other people. You feel more self-sufficient. You feel like you can do whatever it is on your own, and that just opens up a whole new potential of different realities that can come from that, right? So yeah, that's kind of what else can I say about those ones. Let me think for a second. I think, yeah, they really tie together well with the North Node and Capricorn, right? Because Saturn is ruled by Capricorn. So you're definitely someone who, if you would have found me like a year earlier, and we would have done like because I only do like I think I told you earlier, like I do this reading and then like the follow-up, and a lot of people mix together like the current astrology. If you would have done it like a year earlier, we would have done like the Saturn return chart. I'm sure like I would have like explained to you like how much of like a weight is lifted off your shoulders, like energetically after that time. I was just telling my brother, whose chart is heavily influenced by Capricorn and Saturn, that when he's just about to enter Saturn return in March, that he's gonna feel like a completely different person by the time it's over. And I imagine it was the same for you. And because it's your North Node, it's about continuing to move into that more masculine. And when I say masculine, I mean like kind of doing things, right? Like kind of moving forward movement. Now it's not gender based, right? It's not based on like this whole gender thing that everyone's obsessed with today. It's more about like action, like, so it's very like action based. And yeah, so it's really asking you to move forward and like, whether it's like for like some humanitarian cause or what, or just like your job in general, like like, because in the sixth house, it kind of makes more sense to me in that sense. And it speaks to that, right? It speaks to like service to humanity, and really like like I said before, taking all of those skills and those abilities and all that you had in past incarnations that you didn't really show the world and showing into the world. Now moving forward, you have an unaspected Mercury. Wow. So that means that Mercury, which is over here, And is the sun an aspect? Well, it's they're both together, conjunct, but the sun and Mercury are an aspect, which is very interesting from the 12th house. Because when there's no aspects to the sun, it can kind of create, besides the fact that it's in the 12th house and Mercury, it can make it so like you're not like your sense of self, your identity, that Gemini part, you know, like that part of you that's very multifaceted, that's very like able to be very social and do tons of different things, and it wants to like, it's all about like collecting data around the world and just being very curious, and it's like cat energy, you know, how they're just so curious about everything, and everything is so new, and they want to communicate, right? They want to really communicate about everything to everyone. um, you know, that can actually be very powerful. So 12th house planets are interesting, right? Because they can either like, it really depends on the upbringing. And this is why like the follow-up can be very important to understand like you know exactly like what that was like. And if you do decide to do a follow-up, make sure you take notes to discuss this further, because like it can be the house of like repressed energies, right? Where it's like you feel at some point you feel like the energy is too much, so you shut down parts of yourself. Or 12th house planets can be really linked to like high intelligence and just high, like just they can be superpowers, right? Because you have this connection. My ears are getting sweaty. There can be this connection. One sec. There can be this connection to you know, the collective unconscious, which you're very close to, right? And you've probably had that your whole life. It's just about tapping into it. So the more you meditate, the more you do whatever it is, if it's shamanism, if it's any kind of like Reiki or any kind of spiritual healing, even like astrology, you know, anything like that gets you deeper, you know, I guess astrology is more, it'd be more like stuff that gets, you know, like actual energy work that gets you deeper into yourself, or like gets you deeper into the collective psyche. You're able to really like understand that and be someone who can work through that. Like lots of people with these types of energies can be like, for example, like people who like work in like hospitals, or like people who are like work kind of behind the scenes, like in different kind of environments like that, and can be very powerful people who have huge effects on the world from those positions. Um, but yeah, a lot has to do with kind of the upbringing and all that. Okay, so then we have some other energy. So yeah, but the Leo in Mars, like with love in general, right? Like the Leo, or the Venus, excuse me, Venus and Mars and Leo is definitely linked to like in love, like there can be some level of like drama. That's a kind of like the lower vibe. I'll show my face right now. Why not? Can't stop sweating. I have like cat hair all over my face. Um, so there can be some level of like of being quite dramatic. Like, but there's a strong, mostly like a strong need to you know, to express personal creativity, right? And like in itself, it's very like, this is very confident energy. So like it's like this is like a huge thing with your chart, is that you're probably like really moving into a time of like higher confidence right now. And yeah, really where you really want to like make an impact on your surroundings. I don't see arrogance in your chart with all that Cancer. Sweat. Why am I sweating? Yeah. And then in the second house, that can give someone like that can be like a very hustler energy, like when it comes to like making money. You also have Jupiter in the second house. I always call that the financial guardian angel, because like it just like I every client I get when I do a follow-up goes the second house Jupiter, they say the same thing. They're like, oh, I lost my job, but then like, you know, and of course this would be first house in Placidus, but you know, second house in whole sign, they say, oh yeah, I lost my job. I waited 2 weeks and a friend talked to me and told me about this other opportunity. I met them, it's perfect, and I ended up having like a way better job, higher paying, better work environment, all that stuff. So, or it can just be like really good for just like income in general. But it's more income that you make, because eighth house would be like income from others, and you have Saturn there, which is very interesting because that can kind of be difficult when it comes to like shared resources and stuff, or like, yeah. But also Saturn eighth house is interesting too, because it can create, like, especially now that you pass the return, like a rather serious examination of like the unseen realms, right? Of like the esoteric and all things spiritual. So it's just difficult, but like it creates, like I said, like it definitely creates like intimacy issues, usually like for the first 30 years, or until like all that inner work is done. It doesn't have to be first 30 years, but you know, it can be very, very powerful after that. Now, Venus in the second house, that makes someone just like really like to, they just like the nice things in life. And Venus and Leo, the same thing, right? And they really like, it's a very good eye for beauty. Um, you know, they like the finer things in life, and you know, they value beautiful possessions. But also at its highest, it's about like valuing not the outer, it's about like finding the mix between outer and inner, and finding these, I guess you could call them like internal, what's the word? Like not systems, like not values, not behaviors, not techniques, kind of like, just like these, and it speaks further to that, you know, the Capricorn kind of like becoming your own father, like where you like the ability to kind of go within yourself and be self-sufficient, right? um and know how to get through life, and to deal with different situations as they come up that might be, you know, have been very difficult in the past to deal with on your own, right? So I feel like so much is being unleashed for you lately. It's very, very empowering. But yeah, and Venus in the second house, I already talked about that. Venus and Leo, I meant to say that, you know, so from like a love relationship standpoint, it create someone who, especially with Mars, like they need to like be, like they can't be with someone who's like boring and who's like super stiff, and like they need to they are very like, they like fun within their relationships, you know. And they also like to take great pride in their partner, right? One, Venus and Leo, they can be a bit vain, really, you know, sometimes, not always. And with the rest of your chart, I don't see it being that way. But yeah, they really like to be proud of their partner, and yeah, like I said, there can be drama with Venus and Leo that comes up. But like from a creative perspective, also you have to watch out for, interesting. Let me think about this. Like, because Venus rules spending too. So this could also be, I always an energy where you are like the financial stuff I was talking about, like where that like was also kind of held back, and that you're starting to kind of move into a part of your life where you're really like where things are starting to flow more on that level, which is obviously very good. Um, so yeah, new opportunities, and of course, like go take like the current astrology reading to dive deeper into that, but definitely like not so held back when it comes to that area of life. Um, I got like heartburn for some reason, so I had to, as I rarely do, take a heartburn thing. Um, hmm. Jupiter and Leo, it's another really creative energy. Now the self-esteem expands a lot with this, like through like the more possessions and the more like money and stuff, but it's all about, once again, finding it within, and then it expands even more. Um, So this is a really this gives someone like a love for children, like a real need for like a creative outlet, creative expression, and very benevolent, fun loving. Like it's a nice placement, Jupiter and Leo. It can just it can just make someone very just like be a very bright light. Now, with that said, Pluto's in the fifth. I'll go back to showing this. You probably noticed the color change. I went with the red. It's my orange that was kind of golden started turning like yellow. It looked like kind of not good. So Pluto in the fifth, is it aspected? Okay. So I'm trying to know. Okay, so basically like it's karmically being pushed forward, and it has to do with you. It goes along perfectly with what I was just saying. Taking a creative risk on yourself in this lifetime. Whatever that means to you, you'll know what it means. It can mean many things. But yeah, not holding yourself back, and taking a creative risk, and kind of just allowing yourself to just kind of flow in the area of like of that Leo energy. It links perfect with the Leo energy. So yeah, there's a big time need to push forward and to almost like lean into areas that might make you feel uncomfortable with respect to self-expression, because your chart's just begging for it, and the moon being in Cancer, it's like it could have something to do with through some creative outlet you're able to get like all the emotions and all that stuff out, right? Whether it has to do with like with childhood or just emotions in general. Cancermans are very emotional, deep people. They're old souls. You're an old soul. So yeah. So I was talking about like the unaspected, just want to go back to my face. The unaspectedness of the sun and Mercury. And I want to open something up really quick. So it's interesting because usually an unaspected sun / Mercury can be difficult, or not difficult. It can just be like indiscreet. Like it can like unaspected Mercury people, sometimes they can just say things, and it's like there's no filter, right? And then with the sun, it's like it can be like that same energy, but with just your general life purpose and your general movement through life. Now, do I think that that's how it is for you? I wouldn't say so, right? But also, like, unaspected Mercury could give like a very hyperactive mind, right? So there's a big need for you to really like ground your energy. There can be like nonstop worrying, talking, thinking. So yeah, there's a real need to like harness it towards something that's more productive. And it can be a really strong asset because it gives you so much mental faculties, and so many like such strong mental faculty and lots of communication skills. But then with the sun, that's all about self-expression, like a strong emphasis on like leadership, self-expression. Also, sometimes there can be like a strong need for ego recognition, but the fact that it's in the 12th house, like 12th house tends to like prefer to be kind of behind the scenes, if you will, right? So I'm curious to know how that plays out. The fact that these are combust, right, which means that they're Mercury and Sun, they never move further than 28 degrees from each other. If they're within 5 but not close enough as 0.17, which is a Cazimi, which is like a superpower. If they're within that, it can be actually difficult. and it can give like more rigid, kind of dogmatic, like a lack of objectivity. So that's one thing to look out for is to, you know, try to get other people's perspectives and stuff on stuff. So yeah. 1 second. So one other thing with the Venus and Saturn, I like to kind of wrap around and add little details, is that there can be like especially with a 12th house sun, there can be like this thing of solidarity, of being of solid, what's the word, solidarity, right? Like being a kind of solitary person, and loneliness can really show up a lot, right? So, and of course I told you like it's until like, you know, the Saturn return that a lot of this kind of switches up. But basically, you know, I see this in your chart. I see like the split, you know, where because like when you have a 12th house sun, you definitely like require like more alone time than the average person, because, you know, you're so connected to like the collective unconscious that there's a real need to, you know, be alone. And like I have the same thing, like I can't be around people too much. Like you need to like spend time alone, and that's how you recharge your batteries. Some people, but then the fact that you're a Gemini, that's kind of like, what does it mean, you know? Because they're going different directions, right? The Gemini is way more social and yeah, it's a very social energy. But then the 12th house is all about what's hidden. So yeah, it's an interesting one. And with Mars, what could I add about Mars? Yeah, it's just like I kind of covered everything. Also Mars and Saturn, it's like you have to watch out. Like, yeah, it can be susceptible to injury. And there can be like ill temperament as well, and it can just really affect the energy. Like there can be like up and down energy, with all like the setbacks. But then obviously I told you it gets better. Um, um Part of fortune's right smack in the middle, you know, right on your Mars in Leo. So it's like kind of like when you're being assertive, when you're, you know, in your own power, in your own creativity, in your own everything I've been talking about, taking that creative risk. That's when you find your flow state. That's where you find your real joy. And you know, when you're doing that, you're also creating like those inner values I've talked about, inner morals, inner values, guiding principles you live your life based off of, right? Um, the word I can think of, right? Like the inner resources. There it is. Inner resources that can help guide you through, you know, like where you're able to be, you know, your own parent, as I said. So yep. Okay, what else? Yeah, lots of really interesting energy in the chart. Um so yeah, seventh house. Okay, Neptune and Uranus both being in the seventh just independently. Um that can create someone who, like, yeah, I already talked about Uranus like really wanting like more of an unconventional relationship, like this back and forth between conventional and unconventional, this push and pull. That's the opposition with Moon in Cancer, and um Uranus in the seventh house. um but like even like the Moon in the first house, it's going to want to be able to express itself and find different avenues for self-expression, you know. So it's going to want to have that emotional independence, but still, you know, feel grounded and feel held. So that's very important. Aside from that, let's see. Moon, you know, so your Moon is, you know, in 4 degrees. So at degree theory, that's the degree of Cancer. So your Cancer Moon is at the degree of Cancer. 21 degrees, which you have your Sun opposite by Moon. Interesting. That is, what is that? Aquarius. So that adds like a group orientation to your sun, to your Gemini sun, and a humanitarian side, wanting to connect with people, and just with the fact, that Venus is ruling that house, and it's in the second, definitely a link between like finding those higher values, right? And finding like friends that are like stable, that can help you kind of like achieve that in yourself. Because, and this is something I haven't covered, you, my friend, have no earth in your chart. You have fire with a Leo, you have water with a Cancer, you have air with a Gemini. Which, by the way, Gemini sun, you have it on a wealth star. If I pull it up, I'm pretty sure 21 is Capella's 22, is Beetlejuice 21, and it's Rigel 16. There's lots of wealth stars that fall in tropical Gemini, and when you have them like right on like a sun, or moon, or ascendant, or midheaven, it speaks a lot. So you see here 14, yeah, Capella. So it's literally that is like all about wealth. It's right on your sun. So there could be like things about like inheritances, who knows? But with Saturn in the eighth house, that can like pull back inheritances until like the Saturn turn, or like where you're not really able to benefit from other people's resources, but then the Saturn turn comes, and then you're suddenly able to. And then this is Rigel. Yeah, Rigel is another one that's very good for wealth on your Mercury. So that shouldn't be an issue. I'd be very surprised if Sun conjunct Capella, but it can be like a very hidden, like it can be like a very secret, like there can be like secrets around that. And then yeah, your moon in Cancer conjunct Vesta. You're the ultimate nurturer, healer. Like it's just kind of another emphasis. Look at that. I don't even know I have that one in there. I know what it means. We'll look at some other ones after doing El Shalami. So yeah, very magic energy too. So you definitely have to like protect yourself spiritually as well. But you might be someone who's also like very involved in writing. Like writing could be like a really, really good creative outlet for you. And Vega, okay. Vulcanus or Eris. It's kind of far. It's kind of far though. Yeah, Eris 10th house, you can really, really make a huge impact in your career, and your midheaven is in Aries. I was going to talk about the Earth thing first. I want to kind of just show the stars. So I'll talk about that, then I'll talk about the midheaven. Okay, so when you lack Earth in your chart, like yours truly, and your Gemini sun, yeah, Moon in Cancer can be quite grounding, and it can be good for lots of purposes. There's still a certain level of a need to ground, a need to find ground in your life and in general, right? So that's ultra important for you. Back to my face. I didn't speak. Do they speak Portuguese in the Azores? I can't speak Portuguese. I know my friend, she speaks Portuguese. Obrigado. That's all I know. But yeah, so when you lack Earth, there's a need. Like I was talking to you earlier about like my running, like that's like I lack Earth, so I need to run. I need to like have that, or else I kind of lose myself. Like running, meditation, whatever it is, it doesn't have something like, or even like getting out in the nature is super good for people who lack Earth. Like doing things um what's it called, gardening, where you're touching the earth, like anything involving like you and connecting to the earth itself in some type of way, And I know there's the most amazing nature ever in the Azores. So like, yeah, just really like understand that is going to help you so much. The more you can kind of be in nature and yeah. So with the midheaven, and yeah, just like also like with like Earth is also about consistency and routine. So it's like it could be difficult for you to like have that part of life locked down. You can really feel like kind of up and down, especially, I talked about like moon opposite Uranus and what that can do, right? That can create all kinds of and I can go a little bit further into that one. But yeah, it can create all kinds of like ups and downs emotionally, right? So like very like it's very rebellious, very individualistic. Um but yeah, like it can really on a psychological level lead to yeah, just like these like dramatic changes in mood. Um People might not see you as that reliable until you're able to really like show this to people. But you definitely need, I said before, like tons of emotional freedom in your relationships. So sometimes people have issues sustaining committed relationships. I know that you wrote about that in your little note. That's kind of the energy is like is we'll focus on this, right? Because you'll have lots of difficulty with like a very controlling partner, because that will lead to like you like rebelling. Um, but then if someone's like too standoffish, that's the thing. It's like how can you find the balance between that, right? Um, between security and freedom. That's the big question. So yeah, and like with this, like the inner life can feel kind of like a battleground. And there's definitely like a tendency towards like mental emotional stress, emotional instability, which can, like I said, like unpredictable mood changes. And yeah, it can create this like real unpredictability. Um, so then like that can get released on the people closest to you, right? Um, like the relationships can become quite stormy. That's why I told you it's so important for you to like follow like the lunar cycle, like know when it's a full moon, know, try like journal, like try to understand like how when the moon's in this sign, I like, you literally search current planets on Google and it shows you what sign the moon's in, and just like really like figure out like how each one affects you, right? Um, but what can happen like relationship wise is that other people's inability to like rely and trust you can affect the long-term relationship, because there can be like this real up and downness, right? Because also there's like a lot of times with moon opposite Uranus, there's a need for variety, which can cause problems, right? And getting bored really, really easily. And that's another a big Gemini trait, right? Is that Geminis, they tend to get bored easily. They're very curious. So this is what I think of the split is that there's the part of you that wants that consistency, but then it's like a very special kind of partner that's needed who one has like the Leo energy and the Gemini energy of being able to intellectually stimulate you, while also like being fun, but then also be like a very solid person, right? And it's hard to find people who have all those things. They exist, it's not like it's like that hard, but it's like that's kind of what you need, right? Um, yeah, easily bored is a big thing with this one. And yeah, when that tension comes, there can be this energy to like these explosions, right? Where you want to like shatter all limitations and restrictions, maybe moving, changing jobs, like all times, like breaking up relationships, like really not liking commitments. Like more free relationships would be good, where there's also like a close like bond, like emotional bond. Um, but you have to really avoid like the repressed like the built up inner tensions, and I know I said that with the moon that usually doesn't happen, but yeah, that if you let stuff build up, it can really destroy. But like the first step of this lies like in just like acknowledging this inner pressure, and then finding ways to like release it slowly, right? With conscious control. Different channels, as I've been saying, like creative channels, right? Because it's not a bad thing that you have like this impulse for like all the new experiences and interests and all that. And you want your life to be like like all about exploration and also, but then that's the split, right? With the Cancer, which wants things to stay the same, and this other part of you that's very different. So yeah, so it's really important for you to be able to have that exploration available. Um, and yeah, like it's really like important, right? Like it's an essential like safety valve to develop for your well-being, right? And understanding that helps you choose the right partner, one who like accepts this need of yours, and who's capable of compromise, right? Compromise like when necessary in helping you find ways to like safely release that tension. Um, but then also, who stays solid in his own ways. Um, so yeah, it's all about like integrating the emotions in the mind into a functioning whole, right? Um, so like yeah, any kind of self-help techniques devoted to like personal wholeness would be good. Um, like when you try to impose your own dominance on your own inner life, that's not good. And yeah, it can be difficult because like that instability can diminish self-esteem, which can lead to insecurity. And what can happen with 12th house sun is that there can be like a lack of a firm personality center, which goes back to the whole thing about the earth element and grounding, right? Because it's between this moon and Uranus, which is between emotion and logic and, like, just back and forth, right? So it's important to like really experience your emotional depths like as deeply as you possibly can. Let them rise to the surface, which, like I said, with having your ascendant and your moon in the same house, same sign, that's really, good. It makes that easier. And just like feel and understand their intensity. Do that through art, do that through some creative outlet, right? Um, what else? I'm trying to think. Yeah, so just finding that flow and that balance, right? Like the between like the mental interests and pursuits, where you draw both together, because like it can create like a nervous system that's like over amplified. Um, so yeah, it's easier to like live with other people or with someone else. Also, like you could take like a more like less traditional like even what I do. Like I have like a lot of Aquarius energy in my love parts of my chart. I'm all about freedom. I need tons of space. I'm a Pisces, which is like kind of similar. It's 12th house. So yeah, like I have my own room. I have my own space. I live with my girlfriend, but like we're two different people, but like we're together. Obviously, we live together, but like she has her stuff going on. I have my stuff going on, and like that's the only kind of relationship that can work for me is when I'm given like absolute freedom and space and not judged and not just like even if I have like crazy like hours like of being alive and stuff and sleeping, like just like not feeling judged by that is very important, and I think it could be the same for you, right? um so like yeah, and it takes like a certain mind and type of person to really resonate like that, you know? So I hope I'm explaining this well, because it is multifaceted, multi-layered. Okay. So besides that, what have I not touched on? But definitely, I think you're meant to be a healer. I mean, everyone I know who has Chiron rising is like, you know, is like a natural healer, and whether that's what they do for their work or not. I mean, most people I know with it, obviously that I know, that's kind of subjective because I know a lot of people who, you know, are healers, but like of some sort. It's not necessarily just it could be like a doctor or anything, you know. It's something where you feel like you're needed, and you know, when we go back to the, you know, the Aries, as I was gonna say before, midheaven, um you know, that speaks about your career, your dharma, and how you really want to, you know, be very independent, have like a profession that gives you lots of independence and autonomy, um and you prefer to be like a leader rather than a follower in whatever you do. And Aries is there too, so it kind of gives you like that real potential firepower to kind of to really make a big impact. But yeah, I can't stress enough about like the fifth house Pluto, how there's just like that powerful need to express yourself creatively. Um, but sometimes it's even to a point where you have to like beware of like an throat an obsession for for like attention, right? And also with children, there can be like second. If you have children, or if you have in the future, watch out for being like overly dominant and like overly like protective, like too much. And yeah, vertex in the sixth house, like, you know, I always think sixth house service. So your doorway to higher awareness can be through being of service to humanity. And also the 12th house, which I didn't mention before, like literally the remedy that everyone knows about the 12th house, which is a really karmic house, all this, that. It's through acts of service, right? Like where you just give yourself to humanity, it just fixes everything. It's just like, it's a well-known fact. It just does. Like I've seen so many examples of people I know who are heavy 12th house people who are just living so out of line, and once they started living lives, like, and it's didn't like I know one person in particular, like she didn't even like necessarily change jobs. She just started becoming more spiritual and changing who she was as a person, and like everything in her life has become a lot, it's not perfect, but has become a lot more at ease and balanced, and lots of synchronicities have happened for her and all that. um then I didn't really speak about how Chiron, you know, in Cancer conjunct South Node, that could speak about like karmic pain with your family, your current family, and how there's like, you know, pain that you have to get over related to that, and past lives with them, for sure. And feeling like maybe misunderstood, or misunderstood within your own family, that can definitely be something. And then being a Cancer moon, where you're so attached to the family, it can be really, really difficult if that's the case. Yeah, this is a tricky chart. This is a tricky chart for sure. Tricky chart. But I feel like I've I've gotten, I say tricky, not that I haven't figured it all out. I'm saying tricky because there's so many different like elements, you know? But yeah, with the stuff with love, like, you know, that you wrote about, I think it's just like about patience, you know? Like I think like you weren't gonna meet, like with the Venus opposite Saturn, like it wasn't gonna happen until like around now, you know? Like it just wasn't. Like everyone that has like Saturn in the seventh house or Saturn eighth house, you know, especially Venus opposite Saturn, like it's gonna be difficult until after the Saturn return to have meaningful relationships. Um, and you know, when you really start doing that real internal work, the Saturn return tends to push us towards, that's where, you know, the stuff happens. And yeah, like with relationships, your North Node's in the seventh house, so it's like you are being pushed in this lifetime to be more about the, about compromise in relationships, which like I spoke about before, how that might be really difficult for you. But like, like yeah, being able to do that more. Now, I didn't really speak much about your Mercury. It's in its great position in Gemini, but like it is combust, but still, it's everyone knows, Mercury in Gemini is very good for intelligence and for it might there might be issues with like the dogmatism and objectivity and stuff like that, or subjectivity. But still, it's still Mercury in fucking Gemini, So like the fact that it's in the 12th house can literally give you the ability to connect with the other side. So diving into like spirituality can be super powerful for you. Like you can literally like through meditation or whatever you do, like communicate with, Mercury's communication with the collective unconscious, and really, really like understand the zeitgeist, and like zeitgeist slash just like everything, it's happening. And then Vertex and Sag, like that's kind of like your another thing is like you'll in relationships you're kind of second ascendant. It's like almost like your relationship ascendant. Like we take like you're like Cancer rising, but in relationships you'll be more like Sagittarian. Like you'll come off more like adventurous and about like wisdom and sixth house, like just yeah, very, very much like like in that respect, like very philosophical and wanting to like explore, travel, all that stuff. And yeah, like with that said, like those two things, traveling and physically or metaphorically, whether it's through like different philosophies or through actual traveling, can be very, very beneficial to you and can help raise your level of consciousness and awareness. All right, I think okay. So I didn't talk about Juno. I think it's like the last thing. So Juno at Aquarius, that speaks once again, cherry on top. It's about love stuff. And I didn't talk about Black and Lilith either. Um, Basically, it's saying that like you will really do well in relationships that have lots of freedom, surprise. And that maybe are a little bit more eccentric and a little bit more out of the norm of what how things are usually. Um and it's in the eighth house, so there'll be a level of emotional intensity in your relationships that you desire, right? You're really wanting to grow and change, like spiritually, energetically, with your partner. And yeah, in Aquarius, yeah, just like needing the freedom to be your own person within a even a very close relationship. So, and like I said, like if that's not happening, then you become rebellious, unreliable, and it's usually not someone who likes the traditional relationships. So take it from me. You can create your own destiny, you can create your own ideas, like the world's shifting, the world's changing, more people as Pluto's gonna enter Aquarius, like, I think more people will do what I do. I mean, I don't really know if people even do what I do. I don't give a fuck. Like I've always done. Like I just don't like sleeping with other people. Like I don't care who it is. Like I just don't like it. I like having my own room. Like I believe that your room is like your inner sanctuary, and that it reflects your energy, and that it should be purely yours. That's my belief. And I've always had that belief, and I always will, most likely. I mean, I don't ever, I just could never, like I sharing an apartment or a house, that's completely different. But like the room, I believe, I'm just very individualistic, and I believe you are too, in the sense of like, yeah, just still keeping yourself. Like I see people who have relationships who just completely lose themselves in their relationships, and like teach their own, but then they break up, and it's like, oh shit, maybe it's because you were like, too fucking close, or like you did everything together. You're so codependent. So yeah. Um, Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn seventh house. So Black Moon Lilith represents kind of your inner darkness, like where things can become dark when you're at your lowest vibe. So in Capricorn, that definitely has to do with like career stuff, you have to watch out for like not going over the top when it has to do with like stepping over people to get to where you want to get. I keep swallowing water wrong. What's wrong with me? Um, And it can come out in relationships. So there can be like, overly domineering in relationships. But also Black and Lilith, which I just learned recently, excuse me, hmm, can be like where people are jealous of you. So if you're like in like a really good relationship at some, like let's say you meet the partner of your dreams, people can be very jealous of that. So it's important not to like over post about your partnerships, of any sort, because like even if it's like just really close, like BFFFF, like closest friendship ever, like that's something people can be jealous of when they see like in relationships, you have a close relationship, people can be jealous of that, and kind of give bad energy to you from that if you're like posting that shit all over social media and stuff. So yeah, but I would just, like I see like, you have Venus conjunct Jupiter, Mars conjunct Jupiter. I mean, I think that's really, I mean, amazing for finances. I would just chill, like when it comes to, and definitely like book, like if you are interested, do a follow up in a current astrology, or even just a follow up. I want to like speak, it'd be good to speak and take this deeper and see what your lived experience is mixed with this. But like, Venus conjunct Jupiter is really good for like having luck and love. Like, it's just the fact that Saturn's been kind of like pushing that back, and you're just entering a stage now where, the Saturn return is done, and Saturn is not going to have that pull. That's it. Anyways, so thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. And 1:30. So yeah, my typical time. I'm trying to keep them at like 1:15, but I just always go further. But yeah, it's been a pleasure. Let me know about, that reading, or like if you want to do like the follow up, just the follow up or the follow up in the current astro. Of course, I'll always advise people to do both in one reading, but each their own. And the price for that typically it's 150 plus 250, so it'd be 400. But I'm willing to do it for 100 for the follow up and 180. So no, 190. So 290. So like $110 discount was what I'd be willing to give you for those two combined. If you want to do just a follow up, that would be 120. So let me know. Let me know. All right. Talk to you later. Ciao.